we're going to go straight into a topic that everyone will probably know about unless they've been hiding under a rock this week. Cristiano Ronaldo. And that interview. I want to know your opinions on, well, actually on the situation itself. I guess if he were a teammate of yours or if he were a player under you, how would you feel and how would you handle it? Who wants to go first?
Yeah, I mean, I've literally just come off air and had a real set-to with Piers Morgan about what I thought was a very puerile interview and not one that had much investment in actually getting anyone to answer a question besides advertise the whine-a-thon that Cristiano Ronaldo feels the need to avail us of. Look, I think it's a challenging subject because you've got a player, in my view, this was a marriage made in hell from the outset. You've got a fading superstar coming into a football club which is being badly run for a significant period of time without a great deal of leadership, and a club that gets so much media attention and so much politics behind the scenes and out in the media that you're always going to have this landscape. Then you've got a new manager coming in with a very difficult task in hand, and all of those things form a backdrop that creates a scenario where you've got difficulties afoot. I look at Ronaldo's handling of it, and whilst you make exceptions for the exceptional, but you do also have to have standards about what you think is right for your football club and what you think isn't right. And whilst Ronaldo is the exceptional item that I'm talking about, there is a way that a big football club should be able to behave. And this football club, despite the fact this kid has 500 million followers, whatever else we'd have to think is important in a social media world, this football club is still bigger than the Cristiano Ronaldos of the world. So I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed that the interview lands in the way that it did. I'm disappointed it lands with the likes of Piers Morgan. And I'm disappointed that it brings the sort of the spirit of football, the legacy of this player, and the landscape around Manchester United into an area of disrepute. So I think there's no winners in this. The only winner will be Ronaldo getting precisely what he wants, which is probably his contract being terminated.
Yeah, Sam, what are your thoughts on this end? Do you feel like, I mean, it's quite obvious what I guess Ronaldo was doing by doing this interview, because there's no going back after something like that, is there?
No, I think that today's problem is this. Today's problem is your execution as a disciplinarian, as a manager, has long gone. And now you are not a manager, you are a first team coach with less power, particularly for discipline, than we would ever like to admit to. So as a manager of great experience, you go to the board and you go, this is right at the start of the season, and go, I am the new manager, I want you to move him on. He's asked to leave, I don't want him here. You move him on, move him out as quick as you possibly can. And if you don't, the repercussions are exactly what you see now. Because however well he played last year, however many goals he scored last year, Ten Hag decided that he wasn't going to be for him. And we all know that Ronaldo's not going to put up with the substitutes bench for too long before he's going to throw his wobbler, which he has taken a lot longer than I actually thought it would, you know. So you have been let down by the owners, in my opinion, by the fact that you go. If he hasn't gone and told them, then it's his own fault. If he did go and tell them and say, move him on, let him go. He scored 20 odd goals last year. Everybody's seen him as okay, but he's a fading genius, because that's what he was. He was an absolute superstar in his time. So handling to the manager would be my. And if the club at the hierarchy let you down, which I think that they have, if he did say it, that's your real problem there. Man United haven't learnt going into this new era what they should have learnt 3 or 4 years ago.
Where does he go from here then, Graeme?
Well, can I just give you my opinion
Sure.
on what I think has happened? I think he wanted to leave in the summer. He wasn't happy with whatever Man United. Man United needed him, and I believe he would still be an asset for them. I think he's said he wanted to leave. He meets the manager who wants him to stay.
Does he?
Well, that's a question. Wants him to stay. But then it comes back to your argument about how much power do managers have. They meet in a room. 2 people leave the room. 2 people are happy with what each other has said. Ronaldo starts in the first game against Brighton, they lose. Ronaldo starts in the second game against Brentford, they get bashed up properly. I think after that game, they've gone, you know what, it's all to do with Ronaldo not being able to do the high press. It's all about Ronaldo. Leave him out for a couple of weeks. They lose 6-3 to Man City. The manager's asked after the press conference, why did you not bring Ronaldo on? Out of respect. 2 weeks later, he refuses to go on against Spurs. He leaves them out of the group. He trains with the younger guys and similarly trained very, very well. Consummate professional.
Yeah.
And then 2 weeks after that, he asks him to be captain. So I think there's mixed messages coming about. Where I think they've fallen down, I think after the second game, when the manager may have said, we're not going to start with him, I think that's a conversation he has to have with Ronaldo. Where they are right now, this was always going to happen with Ronaldo. There was never going to be an easy exit. They were always going to fall out, and you're falling out with arguably the greatest player that's ever kicked a ball. I don't buy into the thing about where Man United are right now. There is still a place for Ronaldo. Ronaldo got 18 goals last year. That was one more than Harry Kane.
Yeah.
I think it was 26 goals in total. Yes, he doesn't play any wider than the width of the box. He wants to be in and around the box. He doesn't want to do the hard yards. But Man City were winning the league with a similar type of player called Aguero. He wasn't doing the hard yards, but they still won the leagues. And I still think we're in the situation Man United are right now, with the group of players they have, there's still a place for Ronaldo.
We haven't done the hard yards because he can't do the hard yards. And if Ten Hag wants the hard yards, he has to change the way the tactics are. You can't ask your leading goal scorer to do closing from the front if it's not him. Alan doesn't do the hard yards at Man City. And yet Man City have been renowned for the fact that they're an high-pressing side all over the side. Alan's come in. You don't see him do the pressing the rest of the team.
Neither did Aguero, son.
I know.
And sort of Pep's the instigator of the high press.
Yeah.
Simon, you look unsure.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pointless exercise comparing where Man United are to where Man City were, because Man City were a far better team than Manchester United are now.
I'm not making that comparison.
That's why I've said you're saying that.
That's why I've said that there is a place for.
But you're saying that Aguero didn't press because perhaps there wasn't the same necessity that there might be at Man United. I'm not going to argue with you about the nature of football because you'll tell me you've been in for 40 years and you'll never use that in an argument unless, of course, you're losing. Right?
It's not a good idea.
But
there's two of us here as well.
I know, absolutely. So I wanted to
address.
3 of us. Who might know more than me? Yeah. Right. But if you square these circles and look at them logically, right? First of all, Ten Hag made the announcement. It's got nothing bugger all to do with the owners. The manager made the observation from the get-go he wanted this player. So I'm
not digging out. Go back. What did you say? Nothing to do with the manager made the announcement about what
the manager in his first press conference spoke to the Ronaldo situation, which was always going to be the first question out of the media's mouth. Right? They're going to want to know what's happening with Ronaldo because Ronaldo will be purported to be playing in a side that's not going. Well, no, it's not going to be purported. It's going to be playing in a side that's not playing in the Champions League. So there's always going to be that question. It's an easy question for the media to go to. And Ten Hag's answer to it was, "I want to retain Ronaldo. He's a big part of my plans." And this is where I can't square your particular circle because it makes no sense to me what you say in this particular instance. Why a manager would go to a player that he knows he's going to have a problem with, unless he's really stupid.
Are we talking about the start of the season?
I'm talking about the idea that you have, which I think is for the birds, that you had a conversation with the player, told him that he was going to do something, promised the player something, then breached that promise, whatever that promise was. I said a pack of lies the other day. You wanted to pull me back in and say that's a bit hyperbole. But the point is...
Having worked with Simon briefly,
yeah.
He has got a tendency to exaggerate things. So it might have been it might have been one sentence.
No, I've got
a pack of lies from one sentence.
Yes, I sometimes you use hyperbole to get around some of the nonsense that you guys talk. But the point is that there was an observation made by you that the manager and the player have had a conversation, and where this has gone bandier than it would have done is that the manager has said something that he subsequently not followed through on and possibly had no intention of following through on. So with that in mind, what would be the purpose of that? What would be the purpose of anyone with any sense to say, I've got a problem with this player, I'm not going to play him, and I'm going to have that problem anyway, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell him I'm going to play him so I can have twice the problem 3 months later.
Before. I have no idea what Sam is about to say. Seriously, how would you answer that?
I would answer that is if If I'm walking into a football club with Ronaldo and Ronaldo's status, and I sit down with the first press conference, and they say, "What do you think about Ronaldo?" I say he's going to be a big part of the side. Because I'm going to say he's not going to be part of my team. I'm going to be slaughtered across the board in the world of football by saying this is the wrong manager for Manchester United, full stop. So you got to do. You learn how to bull. Get a good politician, sit him down with you, say, how do you deal with the press? He'll tell you, bull. When you don't want a question to answer a different one. Get by it, get over it. Yes, whatever happens after that is whatever happens after that.
And that's
bullshit.
fine, and I can accept that, and I think that's a reasonable assessment of the situation, because if it is his first press conference, he's going to be dealt with a difficult question. Thereon afterwards, with the real world in mind, if the manager doesn't want Ronaldo, then the discussion needs to be had with the owners, and there's no reason why that discussion wouldn't happen. If you've got a Saudi club being I know you did, but Graeme possibly didn't. If you look at the
didn't, but surely when he states he wants to leave. It's just common sense.
Let's assume he did say that. Yeah.
Common sense, which let's not try and exaggerate common sense because in present company. But it's the manager speaks to the player. You accept that what's happened or not happened at the start of the season. Yeah or no?
Well, based upon what you said earlier on in the summer, no.
Yeah or no?
Because you told me no.
So no.
You'd fly around the world and go and see him and prostitute yourself and fly around and wash his feet.
I never managed the best player in the world. So, are you accepting that he met him or didn't meet him?
I would assume that he would have met him. Yeah.
So, would you accept that they've met and they've both left that room and there was an understanding?
Yeah.
Possibly.
Yes or no?
Yeah. Possibly.
Yes or no? So then
depends if you're obtuse. Sometimes you football managers talk in riddles.
You see what I have to put up with.
But they do. They do. I've employed buggers like this.
You wouldn't know all about managers, 8 managers in 10 years.
I do. So I know you're all riddles wrapped up in enigmas.
I've got you saying yes or no,
must have made
which
some
is
bad
a bit of a
choices.
victory. So they both leave that room. They're both happy.
This is the soonest version of events.
Well, I'm going to get to that. Why I think they were both happy. So they both leave the room. They're very happy. Ronaldo starts.
So now Ronaldo wants to stay.
Well, Ronaldo starts in the first game.
In your Narnia.
Ronaldo starts in the first game. Ronaldo starts in the second game, and they play 2 games and lose 2 games.
He was on the bench against. He was a bench
I think
against
the managers had a fright and gone,
wow,
we've got to change something.
What
again.
job's
That's
this
what
I've
I believe
got?
He was on the bench against Brighton.
That's what I believe happened.
He did, yeah.
So so Ronaldo is the fall guy in your analogy.
And there's
No,
no
it's
room.
not
There's
fault.
no
It's
room
not-
for
it's not
anybody else.
blameless.
Move on
He's not
from
blameless.
Ronaldo, quick.
Well,
These two have got to fly together to Qatar.
we should just leave.
Imagine
Yeah,
what
we
it'll
should
be like
leave them
later
to
on.
it, Sam.
They'll still be at it, honestly. Bloody hell.
With Ronaldo, just to kind of end that, but quickly, I want to know where you guys think he's going to go from here, because he's going to leave Man United.
I think the relationship's over. I think it's done. It's dusted.
So where's he going? He's not retiring.
Well,
is he?
If
according
I'm a
to
betting
him,
man, I'd say Chelsea.
Oh,
I think there's a further act to play in this, because whilst I think some of the things that I listened and watched the show, and I had a long conversation with Piers Morgan about it, which most certainly wasn't a meeting of the minds. No, because he was on the radio. He's on the radio because it's his interview, wouldn't it? I would be talking about the interview that Piers Morgan did, wouldn't I? I wouldn't be talking about the interview that Robin Cook did, would I? But the point is,
So you've learned something. You want to get him on fire.
But the point is that I think there's another act to play in this, because whilst there's a balance between saying that Man United ignore this nonsense and turn it into what it is and deal with contract and dealing with the severance of his contract, i.e. severing it, not paying him up. The alternate point of view, which I would be inclined to do if I was Man United, was if there wasn't a lot of substance. You can't argue about the substance of the fact the club's eroded. You can't argue against the ideals that it's not been the same club since Ferguson left. Everyone, blind Pew can see that, right? But you can argue about some of the things that are being alleged of executives, the manner in which the club has handled him, the manner in which the managers handled him. And if there is no substance in that, and Ronaldo is winding it up to achieve an outcome, then if I'm Manchester United, given the fact I'm an NYSE stock listed business, I'm built in a certain way, I would want to come rearing back, irrespective of this superstar, and put him in his place and put him in the picture as to what it looks like to be dealing with very significant businesses with big brand reputations.
Doesn't happen anymore, that though, Simon. It
Maybe.
It used to happen. It doesn't happen anymore. It's too valuable they are.
Do you remember when it all changed? Anelka, Arsenal.
Yeah.
hey.
We're not selling them at any price.
Yeah.
Oh yes, you do.
Yes, you do.
did. 20
But no one's going to be selling Ronaldo.
Berbatov at
Yeah,
Tottenham.
but it's a point of principle.
Berbatov.
It's a point
The
of
valuable
correction.
assets they're declining, like I mean, and that's a problem. Like I mean, the only one that succeeded that way, Simon, is at Tottenham when they wouldn't sell Harry Kane.
Harry Kane. Yeah.
That's the only one that's actually managed to keep him at the club. The
But they're not
rest
going to
have
sell
all,
Ronaldo, are they,
have all
Sam?
been sold off.
There's no
Well,
financial
no, but they
transaction
need,
in this.
for the manager's sake, at this moment in time, they have to
Cut him loose.
let him go. I'd say go back to Italy because I think he'd still be great there. Still score lots and lots of goals.
Somebody's obsessed with the challenge that Messi's thrown down with goals in the Champions League. He wants to go to a Champions League team with a chance of winning it.